Nico, so tell me, I'm going to give you a really broad question, okay, just off the top of my head. Why did you write this book?
Why did I write this book? Several reasons. Ultimately, when I was like 10, whenever the Lord of the Rings movies came out, as a kid, like I just decided like that's what I want to do. I want to make one of those. And but that's the overall answer. But the thematic weight of the book came from dealing with mental health problems, mainly major depressive disorder, and as a result of self-medication, substance use disorder. And
so would you say this book is part of your healing process, or is that the right way to put it?
Definitely. And as a huge fantasy fan, typically, addiction or alcoholism is used as like a aesthetic for a brooding dark hero. It's not. It's used, and it's not. There's no consequences. That you don't ever see the tremors in his hand. He takes this swig of whiskey, wipes his hand, and goes fights perfectly and executes everything with all precision.
Right.
And that's just not reality. That's not addiction. Addiction has consequences. It's waking up at 3 a.m. shaking because you need another shot to go back to sleep.
Right.
It's waking up in the morning and not being able to get out of bed unless you have something on the nightstand, or you are on your way straight to go find something.
Right. And so you've studied this as well as lived it.
Yes.
Right? As a profession?
Yes.
To help others?
Yeah, I'm a behavioral health technician. So I work in substance use and mental health treatment centers. I've worked in detox, and like that as the front lines, man. People are literally coming in the door fresh off, years of use, and that your body gets, the way your body gets used to a substance, it literally doesn't know how to behave when you take that substance away. And it not only is it physical, but it's mental. In AA and whatnot, they typically say like the substance wasn't the problem, it was the solution. Right. It just was an unhealthy solution. But the problem is whatever that hollow cavern in your chest that you're trying to fill with this and that.
And so your lead character in your book is an addict.
He is.
Yeah. And his journey, and this is not the last book of this character, right?
No, this is book one.
This is book one of, do you know how many you've got planned?
At least 5. I'm thinking 7, but if I get to that point, like I could probably, finish it at 5, but I don't think I'll want to stop. So
right.
7 is the plan.
Okay. And you think that there's a longevity in that character because it's one day at a time.
It is.
Right. There's no end to that story.
There's no training montage where the hero, finds their friend dead and screams at yells at the sky and then decides to never pick up again. Like that's just not reality. It's not okay, I'm fixed. It's a daily choice. And it becomes a series of daily choices that add up. But not to get like too 12-step, but like this 10-step prayer basically says it's contingent on my spiritual maintenance. So if I stop giving my body the spiritual medicine or whatever, then it's going to start craving the other kind of medicine.
Right.
So it's not like you just lose it. It never goes away, you know.
So the character Vigil?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that is that the core of sort of, is that you? I mean, are you Vigil in a way? Or is that sort of I mean, this is a fantasy world you created, yeah?
Yeah. I would say I definitely drew a lot on my experience, and yeah, there's aspects to him that I relate to for sure.
So in writing, essentially, when you're pulling so much of your own life for this main character, was there a scene anytime that you were writing, you were like, oh, I don't know if I should write this? And then you pushed yourself to do it because it was exposing, was it, you don't have to say which scene?
No, yeah.
But did you hit that place at any time in your writing?
Yeah.
Would you like to keep it a secret? It's
No,
okay.
no. Some of you who know me know that in high school, my girlfriend got pregnant and we had the baby. And when the baby was about 3 years old, I found out she biologically was not mine. However, that really did not that didn't prevent me from seeing her. I'd already fallen in love with this little girl. It wasn't her fault that her mom, bleep. So I stayed in her life and I still saw her as my daughter, but the tragic part is, as my addiction grew, not by my choice, but by consequences of my actions, the maternal grandparents have custody. And we were always like on great terms until, something happened where I got really depressed and I started using, and things kind of spiraled out of control and they stopped letting me see her.
And that's reflected in the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vigil hadn't seen his daughter in several years, and then he has to go save her, named Sophia. And then, it's he's a vigilante, it's too dangerous for her to really stay with him. So he goes to make sure she's in a safe spot. But, a lot of the book is him feeling sorry for not being there.
Right. And this is all encapsulated in a world that you started to make in your head when you were how old?
Oh boy. Obviously it's gone through a million different iterations, but like I said, I wanted to start doing it when I was 10, but the actual conception, the name of this world, Anurzil, Anurzil, I think came to me when I was like 15, and I'm 34. So, back then it was much more like generic fantasy tropes, and this is part of so when I first started having issues drinking, I would watch my friends who drank more than me in high school, but now we're in college and getting careers and stuff, they can drink responsibly. But because of this void that I'd found inside myself, I'm drinking uncontrollably. But I'm asking myself, I'm asking God, why would you make me an alcoholic? I accept that I'm an alcoholic, I understand, but this sucks. Why'd you do this to me? Why me? And this is a huge lesson I had to learn, because I realize now that I would never be able to write this book how it is without that experience, without God sending me down on that path to recovery, and having those struggles and that pain, that the realistic portrayal of that would never come through on the page. I wouldn't have even thought of making the character an addict.
Right.
And so, and the book's an entertainment too, but I think also as I was referring to before, if you're an alcoholic or addict, we don't make a big deal of it, but oftentimes you kind of feel a little insulted, or just at least like the writer or director was not informed, you know, when they made this character, you know.
Right. I mean, Hollywood's been, you know, romanticizing alcohol abuse from the beginning, smoking and, you know, smoking cigarettes. And, you know, I think of William Powell in The Thin Man, where, you know, his wife comes up to the bar and asks the bartender how many has he had, and he says 6, and she goes, you know, line them up. So it gets to be like it's used as humor. It's not taken. I mean, there are. I have seen movies.
Yes.
Where addiction is portrayed and then usually it's the other side of the coin. It's not humor. It's just dark and, you know, suicidal.
Yeah.
But you never see the
real bright side.
The real journey.
So I think my portrayal of addiction and trauma and all those things is honest. It doesn't glorify, it doesn't demonize. It's just the truth. It's a disease. It's an answer. It's a salve in a wound that people, you know, their trauma, that's what it is. Like I said, like the substance isn't the problem. It's how they deal with the actual problem.
Right.
And, you know, so then you get therapy and whatnot, and you treat the actual issue, not just the symptoms.
Right.
And that's how healing actually happens. And so back to the God, why me thing, like, I think I hope this book helps people. And, you know, when you tell your story in AA or in 12-step programs, you typically, like, it's often said, like, if this helps one person tonight, you know, me spilling my guts and like being vulnerable in front of everybody, then that's okay. As long as it helps at least one person.
Right.
And the book has already done that. You know, I won't reveal the source of the review, but someone who read the book, she was an educator of mine, and her son dealt with alcoholism pretty bad for a long time. And she said, especially reading chapter 1, where you're like in Vigil's head as he goes through like the bargaining and the, you know, the euphoria and the dreading the drop and all that. She said, I finally got a small glimpse of what goes on behind his beautiful eyes and his brilliant mind.
Oh.
And she thanked me for that. So, I mean...
So the book's already, even though it's not released yet.
It's not released
When
yet.
does that happen?
That happens on Tuesday, March 31st. So,
Okay.
Today's Saturday. So in like 2 days.
In 2 days. Okay, well then we better end this now so that you can put it online. Nico, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.